The Rhoades Stadium views are spectacular. On the field, Purdue fans can barely watch as Penn State's offense scores 7 touchdowns from 6 different players.
Obviously, what they're doing to other teams is no shock to us because we get that every day in practice.
Trick plays, direct snaps. The question now is, have we seen everything yet?
You've never seen anything with Coach K. He's an innovative guy as well as the rest of our staff, so there's always something up his sleeve that he's brainstorming.
Penn State is 9-1, with only 2 more regular season hurdles to clear. They appear to be peaking at the right time.
I thought that was the best game we played overall in terms of 4 quarters. Offense, defense, special teams, complementary football.
All their goals are still within reach. Right now, it's time for Nittany Game Week. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nittany Game Week. I'm Todd Sadowski alongside former Nittany Lions coaches Jay Paterno and Tom Bradley. Rhoades Stadium before the game, especially during the sunset and the second half, spectacular views. Boilermakers football in 2024, not much to look at, and Penn State pummels Purdue 49-10.
They have really struggled. In fact, when you look at bowl eligibility, they're the only team in the Big Ten that's out now that can't make a bowl. Everybody else is still alive, but they really have struggled on both sides of the ball, and they were overmatched.
It was one of the things I could not figure what their offensive game plan was watching the game. Didn't make sense.
Yeah, they got hounded all game long, and the Boilermakers blowout includes an impressive array of players visiting the end zone, a dominant defensive effort from the front 7. As they said, they hound a trio of quarterbacks, and we dissect the Nittany Lions' current place in the college football playoff rankings as we begin our opening drive. Well, the great Tyler Warren scores twice. Other than that, a different Nittany Lion visits the end zone for every other touchdown against Purdue. They show creativity, touch, power, finesse, and speed. I think Purdue's heads are still spinning on defense, guys.
Well, I think Purdue, when you look at what they've faced this year, they will have played with either 5 of the top 6 teams in the college football playoff rankings, and they have just not been in any of those games.
I couldn't quite figure out what they thought of Tyler Warren. Did they not know he played for Penn State? Like, I didn't understand the plan. Like, if I'm playing against him, I'm making sure I know where he is on every snap.
Everything you do on defense when you're playing Penn State, that is factor number 1. Where is 44?
And the Nittany Lions established him early and often. So what's it like to face such a diverse set of offensive weapons? Well, I asked one of the players that witnesses the offense at work every day.
We knew that once the season had started, it was going to be crazy. Because I haven't seen anything like that since I've been here. So, yeah, obviously what they're doing to other teams is no shock to us because we get that every day in practice.
All the different personnels we have with linemen coming in motion, it causes a lot of stress for defenses, not only on game day, but during the week of preparation because they have to just prepare for all different types of stuff. So playing in this offense is a lot of fun, and they have to prepare for a lot of different things.
Just the versatility at the quarterback position is a nightmare for opponents. Look at the straight line speed from the backup QB, Probula, who is also dangerous throwing the ball.
Well, Tom, the defense doesn't need a lot of points to put this one in the win column, so they hound Purdue's quarterbacks, but did a great job getting pressure on them all day.
Yeah, and it was constant pressure with 4 man. They weren't even bringing the house on him. They just were getting great pass rush up front.
Well, let's check out some video from the very first series for the Boilermakers. They didn't sack Hudson Card very often. They didn't need to. This level of harassment continues the entire game and affects everything Purdue tries to accomplish.
Well, it all starts, if you can rush the passer, the pass game, that's the best pass defense there is pass rush. Because it keeps everybody off balance and it ruins your timing. And, Tom, I know you were big on that.
Oh, I'm a big fan of pass rush. Love pass rush.
Every DB coach is like, yeah, come on, pass rush.
Come on, pass rush. You know it.
And the offense really helps that out by starting really quickly in this game.
Well, I mean, that game, you could tell in 2 series. There's just 2 teams on 2 vastly different levels right now. And unless Penn State made a bunch of mistakes, there was no chance Purdue was going to get in that game.
Yeah, Drew Aller was excited about the fact that they scored on the first 2 possessions, which allows the defense to kind of change their philosophy.
I think it's huge when we start fast and get points up on the board right away, because that also allows our defense to get more aggressive and play into their strengths. Let guys like Abdul just rush in predictable pass situations.
We just appreciate winning more than anything because we know how hard winning is and we know what winning takes. So whenever we come out here and get a win, that's all we really work for.
Now, the Purdue crowd certainly appreciates that they don't know how to win this season. They proudly displayed the 1-8 mark at the beginning. We check back towards the end. There's an update. Scratch the 8. It's now 1-9. We're not going to see the Boilermakers in the college football playoff, 18th in an 18-team conference. Penn State holds strong in the latest CFP rankings. Nittany Lions still a long shot for a berth in the Big Ten championship game, 2 wins away from locking up a spot in the new postseason format. Let's take a look. This is always fun to see how matchups would look right now. Some SEC teams may be forced north for the winner.
Yeah, it'd be a lot of fun because there's always been bowl games. It's always going south for a bowl game and now coming up here north. But again, you know, the teams, if you can run the ball, that travels. That's you know, doesn't get affected by the weather and the wind. And Penn State's not a tough place to play with wind, but it'd be nice to see what happens with wind chill.
Exactly. Wind chill is the factor here. I can't wait till they come up north. I think it's only fair. For years, we've been going down south. Come on up and visit us.
Well, if Penn State takes care of business, they're kind of slotted in. There's a lot of movement that's going to be happening around them. They've been set up to play Notre Dame at home, then Ole Miss, now Georgia at home. But if Penn State finishes it off, like I said, unlikely to get into the Big Ten championship game, likely to host a first-round game. So we would have to see who that opponent will be. Still have a ways to go until the final brackets are set on Sunday, December 8th. The final regular season road trip takes PSU to the City of Lakes. Let's hope it doesn't freeze over. For their game with the Golden Gophers, our coaches point out the potential potholes to avoid in our roadmap to victory when Nittany Game Week returns.
Roadmap to Victory is sponsored by the R&R family of companies.
Welcome back to Nittany Game Week. The weather in Minnesota, unpredictable this time of year. The Golden Gophers' week-to-week performance on the football field, also unpredictable, what seems like every year under Coach P.J. Fleck. Coach Bradley, Coach Paterno, they seem to have an easier time rowing the boat when they're at home. This is the final road obstacle for the Nittany Lions. So show us some of the potholes to avoid in the City of Lakes.
Well, you know, the Mississippi River starts in Minnesota and, you know, it runs right through Minneapolis. So maybe that's why it's easier to row the boat, to go with the current. But speaking of going with the current, after a blowout win, Tom and I have always talked about it, and this really goes back. After blowouts, you like to coach your team harder than you do after a loss because they can deal with it. So if you look at Penn State, one of the things as you look the next 2 games, potentially in the playoff, is going to be getting the traditional running game going with their running backs, Allen and Singleton. Common opponents. Now turn to Minnesota. As Todd mentioned, they've done some good things. They're 6-4. They've had some good wins. 3 common opponents with Penn State. They're 3-0 against them. Penn State's 3-0. Margin of victory fairly similar in that regard. Not a great offensive football team, Tom, but what they are good at is they are good in situations on third downs, and they are good at creating points off turnovers, and we'll talk about that when we get to defense. Let's talk about a little bit more about Minnesota and what they do in the run game, Tom. No surprise, zone blocking scheme. And when you talk about the zone blocking scheme, it's a big offensive line, 6'6", 320 up front. But they want to create lateral displacement, create the cutbacks. And then, Tom, you always did this. Upfield push, vertical displacement by the defense kills us.
I'm not sure of one thing here, because those weights, I'm not sure if they're accurate. They look a little bit heavier to me.
They're big. And
they're big.
Lengthy.
They are big.
Taylor, the tailback, keep an eye on him as you watch this stiff arm. Remember, this guy has caught 45 passes this year. That's a big number in 10 games, and that's what we're going to transition to next. With Minnesota having the week off, they like to be very creative. So this could be interesting. Now, Tom, you used to love this. They start him out in empty. They motion him back. They fake the ball to him. They fake the play action pass, and then they throw it back to him on the screen. That's a lot to look at when you're a linebacker.
Yeah, it's a lot of pleasant memories. Thanks, Jay, for pointing that out. But the one thing that's very difficult is to duplicate this at practice, too, to get this timing just right.
And just like Andy Kotelnicki's creative in his formations, Minnesota will be as well, so keep an eye on that early in the game. Now, when you talk about the matchups on the outside, they've emerged as a good passing football team, and they like the short pass stuff. But again, you got to be patient and tackle. Don't jump on that because they'll go to the double moves in a hurry. Here they use max protection. They get the corner fooled, and you'll see this both from the wide shot and the isolation shot. They just get that one stutter step in the corner, Tom, and then it's trouble.
It's big-time trouble, and he's very accurate with those throws. It's one of the things you have to understand about him. He is very accurate in his passing.
And Daniel Jackson does a nice job getting this ball in a tight window with good coverage, and that's Illinois. That's a good defensive football team. Now, speaking of defense, Minnesota's numbers, top 20 in almost every category in the country. They play good offensive football teams. Keep an eye on Penn State's ability to run the ball as well as avoid turnovers, because turnovers is the key for Minnesota. Plus 12, number 7 in the country, 72 points on turnovers, top 20 in limiting 20-yard plays. In fact, the last Power 5 team to give up, Power 4 team to give up a 50-yard play. Keep an eye on Ja Joyner, the defensive end. You're going to see a lot of film on him. In the corner, Wally and Robinson are both really good matchups for them against Penn State's wideouts. Now, 4-2-5 scheme. 4 down linemen, 2 linebackers, and just like Ohio State and Penn State, 3 safeties, which allows them to rally the ball, prevent big plays, create confusion with alignments, and force turnovers, Tom. And you know that's the key to this game.
And that is going to be the key to the game, will be the turnovers. One thing about the 3 safeties, too, Jay, is you can do a lot of different disguises.
Yeah, it makes it tough up front. And, again, go into the ball and tackle them. Now, let's talk about disguising things. Again, 4 different players with multiple interceptions, 16 interceptions, 46 pass breakups, 12 by the D line. These 2 numbers mean that 21% of the passes that are thrown, they get a hand on. That's why they're top 10 in passing efficiency, Tom, and they do get some pass rush outside.
One of the great things you did bring up is that front, the way they key that ball, are able to get their hands and knock down passes. And as you know, a lot of times those balls get up in the air, turn into interceptions.
And as you say that, we go to the next play, and we're going to see that happen right away. Tom, beautiful transition as always. But again, they can do a lot of things, show blitzes, confuse your offensive line, get one-on-one matchups, and that creates interceptions. And here, they drop a guy out, they drop a defensive end out, and if you're looking to throw the underneath stuff, again, this becomes a problem for you, because now, again, knocking the ball. And one of the reasons you can get a lot of interceptions is because you do that.
Thank you very much. Coaches, of course, it always helps to have a guy like Tyler Warren on your team, no matter who you're playing. Run, block, catch, throw, all of the usual Tyler Warren skills are on display in West Lafayette. His performance increases the Heisman Trophy hype that surrounds the Nittany Lions, all everything tight end. Warren's signature play against the Boilermakers comes in the second quarter. Takes the direct snap, throws it over to Drew Aller. It's a backwards pass, which makes him an eligible and open receiver on his side of the field. Aller sends it back to Warren, and he takes off down the sideline behind a wall of blockers. Does not score on this play. In the third quarter, he again fields the snap, and this time keeps it and sprints the distance. Coach Franklin has seen more than enough to give his opinion on Warren's place in the college football world.
I think Tyler Warren should be a part of all the conversations that deal with the best football player in college football. I don't think it's a question. And that's all those types of awards, including the Heisman.
And here are his season numbers: 67 receptions for 808 yards and 5 scores, 16 carries for 157 yards and 4 touchdowns on the ground, 2 completions and 4 attempts for 26 yards and a touchdown passing the ball. Not to mention, he's an outstanding blocker. I would imagine he will collect some kind of hardware during award season. Warren was an excellent basketball player in high school. Perhaps he will make an appearance for our next guest at some point in the hardwood. We catch up with Nittany Lions head men's basketball coach Mike Rhoades after the break. More Nittany Game Week after this. Welcome back to Nittany Game Week. Mike Rhoades is in his second year as the men's basketball coach at Penn State. Rebuilt the roster in year 1, made a strong showing in the Big Ten, and won multiple games against top 15 opponents. Nittany Lions are navigating now an expanded Big Ten conference. Coach, we're excited to talk about hoops. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Okay, so from your first day here, you've taken the approach of dreaming big, looking at what is possible. In your first year, you and your staff landed a top 25 recruiting class. How did you get the guys to see your vision for Penn State basketball?
Well, go hire a staff that's smarter than you, number one, and then let them go work and support them. So that to me is number one. Surround yourself with great people and high-achieving people. So, and then go out and get guys that are going to fit how we want to play, fit our mentality, on and off the court. We always talk about let's try to get high talent with high character. I think that's how you overachieve and you can dream big and follow through with it. So that's number one on the list. Let's go get really high character kids that can really play and have an edge, and then try to put them together.
In talking with football coaches specifically around the country and even some basketball coaches, in the transfer portal and the NIL age, there seems to be a balance between building a team and building a program that is sustainable. How hard is it to strike that balance, and what do you think sets you apart in that regard?
Well, it's great question, Jay. I think every year it's going to be more understandable and clear for what you want specifically that year. Some years you can do it to get older. Some years you can do it to fill some roles. Some years you can do it to have backups or starters. So, it gives you a little bit of variety every year. But for us, we want to have guys that fit our style of play, that are very versatile players, that play with an edge, but also understand the team part of it. I want guys that want to be pros and want to come here and have great careers, but they got to be all about the team, and that's the character part. That's how I've always been. You could find really good players that are high character, want to be about the team, and I think we really, we were 4 for 4 with that with the 4 transfers this year. We got high quality guys and they can play. So, that's number one on the list. And then I just think for us at Penn State, it's hey, maybe we get a little bit older this year. Maybe we fill this role a little bit better. Maybe we need more ball handling. Maybe we need a little bit more size. You could be specific. But that transfer portal, if you go about it and evaluate it the right way, it could be a great tool for you without a doubt.
Coach Tom Bradley here. Hey, what are the keys to building a program that you know now that maybe you didn't know when you were a younger coach?
Yeah, Coach, you've been around, it. It's just there's certain things that you just don't fold on. There's certain things that you don't bend on because they become the foundational pieces, the core pillars of your program. For us, number one, it's your work ethic. If you're not going to work hard every day in the gym and make decisions that are best to add to your work ethic, this is probably not the place for you. The second thing, you better be a great teammate. You want really good players, but they got to be all about the group and the team and the family. I'm not caving on those two things for sure. And the third thing is, for me, it's about having guys understand that it's a process and a journey. No matter what and how this landscape of college athletics has changed, there still is a level of growth and development that you got to be open to. And so, for me, those three things are most important. Work really hard, be a great teammate, and be ready to grow and develop, and it's going to be a process. And we talk to their parents, their agents, their coaches, and we hammer away in recruiting about that. And if you're not about those three things, I don't want you. Then I think we can beat you when you go to somewhere else if you're not about that stuff. So that's the three core parts of our program. And then we're going to let our guys play with their instincts and give them a green light to play. It's not a coach's program, Coach. It's a player's program. But those are the foundational pieces that we're going to grow and build this program on for sure.
We always enjoy catching up with Coach Rhoades for the latest on the men's basketball program, and I think he can appreciate that we need a fast break. Make sure you go to NittanyGameWeek.com for the entire conversation with Coach, along with other web-exclusive content like our depth chart and Nittany Game Week podcast. Up next, our scrap metal. He admits he's still not at 100%. His presence and performance make a huge difference on the defensive side of the ball. We're heading into the final minutes on Nittany Game Week.
The Nittany Game Week Depth Chart is brought to you by Burke & Bradley Orthopedics. Located in Pittsburgh, Burke & Bradley Orthopedics is a comprehensive sports medicine practice, providing patients with the most current and innovative approaches in diagnosis and treatment. Scrap Metal is sponsored by the We Are In, voted #1 game day restaurant in Center County. Follow us on Facebook and visit thewearein.com or call for dinner or room reservations.
Let's hand out the scrap metal. Tom's on a roll with the defensive players. This one impacts a game with his mere presence in the lineup.
Todd, are you trying to say I'm rigging this thing for the defensive guys?
Just partial. You're partial to the
defensive guys.
Yes.
Hey, great to see junior Dennis Sutton back on the defensive line for Penn State. He says he's not quite 100% yet, but he does more than his share to disrupt Purdue's offense. 3 solo tackles, 2 tackles for a loss, including 1 sack, which comes on the very first possession. Just as important, the defense has to account for both Dennis Sutton and Abdul Carter when the Millsboro, Delaware native is on the field.
All right, good choice. And you can talk scrap metal or anything else you want with Tom on Saturday during the We Are In watch party for the Minnesota game. It starts at 2:30 and continues until things wind down after the game is over. Wing and beer specials, and most importantly, Coach Bradley. 2:30 at the We Are In Phillipsburg.
Last week's question, Purdue quarterback and Super Bowl MVP and future NFL Hall of Famer Drew Brees started 3 games against Penn State. What was his record in those 3 starts? He was 0-3. Luke Kang from Edgewater Park, New Jersey, is our winner. Now turning to this week. Penn State beat Minnesota in its first ever game as a member of the Big Ten. Which Penn State receiver set the school record for touchdown catches in a game in that win?
Make sure you check out our depth chart at NittanyGameWeek.com. The depth chart is a collection of businesses that support the show and provide our viewers with places to eat, travel, and shop, or professional services owned and operated by people with a special connection to Penn State. And we like to make it as easy as possible to consume as much of our stuff as possible. That's why you can find everything at our website, NittanyGameWeek.com. Entire episodes, impact interviews, the podcast. Make sure to visit our site for all of our web exclusive content. We always finish with some pride picks. We're getting a lot of submissions, even from the road game. So continue to show us your spirit. For Jay and Tom, I'm Todd. Thanks so much for watching Nittany Game Week. We'll see you next time.